Yo, 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 it's Crow, the MTF bro. Hello, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how I realized I'm a butch lesbian. So, buckle up because this is going to be a long ride. So, for most of my life, I thought I was a gay man, and I was suffering under a lot of dysphoria, and I had no idea. My whole life, I kind of just felt very disconnected from my body, disconnected from the world around me. I was so disconnected from my body that, like, I would grow body hair, for example, when I was going through puberty, and I was very hairy. Like, I had hair, like, all up and down my arms and on my hands and stuff. But I never realized that I was a hairy person, like, until someone commented on it. Like, that's how detached I was from my own perception. So, why did I think I was a gay man? It's kind of complicated. When I first heard about, like, sex and stuff, I was like, oh, this is weird, this is disgusting. But at some point, I guess I discovered gay porn, and there was something that drew me towards it, although I couldn't quite imagine myself being in those situations. But I just figured, well, I feel so weird and outcast, and I seem drawn to this in some way, so I must be gay, right? And to be fair, I didn't seem to feel a particular attraction towards women at that point. Although looking back, I'm not sure I felt attraction to men around me either. Like, I never really had schoolyard crushes. I never really felt like I had, like, a very concrete understanding of my sexuality. It felt kind of abstract, and I would, like, latch onto aesthetics and, like, be like, oh, I'm really into this kind of person. Like, I convinced myself, like, I'm really into bears. I'm really into this type of guy. Where I think I was aesthetically into bears, but, like, actually in practice, I didn't want to be like that. I don't know. It was very weird. I spent many years, trying to integrate as a gay man, having boyfriends, going to gay bars and gay clubs, even going to saunas and stuff. But I always had this weird thing where, like, I thought I really wanted sex and stuff, and then when I had it, I was always like, well, this is a big letdown, or it just felt wrong or weird in some way, and I could never figure out what it was, like. And then later I realized I was autistic, and I thought it was to do with that, but that's jumping ahead a bit. So I thought I was gay up until around 2014, when discovered a great little website called Tumblr, and I was reading all this stuff. This was the height of, like, Mo Guy discourse, the Aero Ace wars. So it was a crazy time to be on Tumblr, but I was reading all this stuff about, like, non-binary identities and, like, you don't have to have dysphoria to be trans, all of these things. And I'd heard about trans people before, but, I just couldn't imagine that being myself, because I didn't fit the normal narrative. I didn't feel like a woman trapped in a man's body. And equally, I didn't fit the more modern narrative of, like, oh, well, I enjoy playing with girls' toys growing up, and when I put on a dress, I feel great. I didn't identify with that as well, but I felt there was definitely something different about me. And all the time growing up, I definitely felt like a real disconnect between me and men around me. And I thought that was because, I was autistic and because I was gay, but, like, there were things that I found really, really hard, like playing sports. I just didn't like to be associated with men, like cisgender men, and especially straight men. With gay men, it was a bit better, but I still felt like I didn't quite fit in. Like, I was always more comfortable around women. So I started identifying as non-binary for a while and kind of experimenting. And then when I was at university, the second time, it's kind of complicated, but I was at university around that time, and I started going to, like, trans events, and there was, like, a trans coffee meet, and there was a pretty active kind of, like, I guess, trans culture at my uni. So I started to meet a lot of other trans people and a lot of other, non-binary people and stuff. And so I started to explore more. I started wearing makeup and wearing skirts and stuff. And keep in mind, I had, like, short hair, a crappy beard, and I was wearing, like, terrible eyeliner and stuff. Like, I was really just, like, going out there. But it was weird, because on the one hand, it felt kind of liberating to step outside of those expectations of gender. But on the other hand, it didn't really click with me. I never had that moment of putting on a dress and feeling, oh my God, like, this is it, I'm supposed to be a woman. So I really just didn't know what I was and what I wanted to be. I just knew I was some form of trans feminine. And that continued for a while. And I don't know, it was like, I had this really negative experience where I was involved in all this LGBT activism, and then I fell out with a lot of people. When I say fell out, I meant there were like some really shitty, abusive people who I decided to cut out of my life, and then I socially sabotaged myself as a result. It was a whole complicated situation, but I basically lost most of my friends and became a depressed hermit for like a year. And in that time, this was my last year of university, so I was just spending all this time as an insomniac, sitting inside, eating a lot of sweets, reading a lot of Tumblr, just having a great time being depressed about it all. And, that gave me more time to reflect on gender. And I was clear that I was miserable and I just didn't know what I wanted. And, dressing up as a woman, I found really hard. And it didn't seem to appeal to me, and I just could never really seem to do it right. But I still was sure that I was trans. And so I was like, okay, well, I think I need to try hormones, because I know you don't have to take hormones to be transgender. And here's the thing, before I took hormones, I had no idea if it was something I actually wanted. I took hormones basically as a last ditch attempt, because I was like, look, I've tried being an effeminate gay man. I've tried doing this, that, and the other, and nothing seems to work. Everything seems to just leave me in this fog of misery. So maybe hormones is the thing. So I tried it, and I don't know, unlike a lot of people, I didn't have that experience of like suddenly everything made sense. It was more of a slow build, and I was living at home again. I came out to my family. I started transitioning more openly in the world, and I started working as a language teacher. And I guess I sort of decided at some point, well, I'm on hormones, I'm transgender, I'm feeling pretty good about it. So I guess I just have to be a regular trans girl, right? And I never particularly identified with the trans women around me. I never particularly identified with the trans women around me when I was at university. And at the same time, I just didn't feel like I could keep identifying as non-binary, because I was like, when I identify as non-binary, I just feel like the world treats me like a man, So I started identifying as like a binary trans woman, and I started kind of, I guess, moving towards more of I didn't even start moving towards more of a feminine aesthetic. Occasionally I'd buy a dress and I'd try it on once and I'd be like, well, I guess I could wear this maybe if I have to at a wedding. Yeah, if everyone tells me it looks okay, I guess. But I never felt really comfortable in all that shebang, and I could not do makeup for shit. And I just kind of ignored it while I was like working, and first year or two on hormones, I was very busy with work and other stuff and distracting myself. And then Miss Rona came along. Ooh. And I started to more seriously think about my sexuality and my gender, because after starting hormones, I basically didn't have any sexual or romantic life. I was just dry, and I was just like, I would try dating and stuff, but it was weird and I could never figure it out. And what I realized was like, oh, well, now that I'm transitioning, I'm not really a gay man anymore, and gay men don't want to be with me. So I guess that makes me a straight woman. And the idea of being a straight woman freaking terrified me. I couldn't stand it. And pretty much most of 2020, I spent grappling with the idea that I am now a heterosexual woman. And so I started reading a lot of romance novels. I actually love romance as a genre. I am a writer of romance novels, but like, there's no denying that a lot of straight romance really plays into this idea of like a dominant man and a submissive woman, and that very heteronormative fantasy, the Christian Grey kind of deal. And I kind of started buying into that. I kind of told myself that, oh, well, oh, I have this whole side of me that really wants to be dominated by a man. And I'm only realizing this now because, you know, I've transitioned and, you know, oh, I was into like weird kink and stuff as a gay man, but it never really worked. But this is what I really want, to be like dominated by a man, and like maybe I'll even get married and stuff and all of that stuff. And I really tried to, subconsciously, I was trying to push myself into that heterosexual norm. And I started trying to dress more femininely, like wearing not even dresses, just like nice sweaters and things like that. And I taught myself how to do makeup. I started learning skincare, which I still do now, which is why my skin looks gorgeous. Actually, my skin doesn't look great today because I had to rush this morning, so don't judge me. I'd grown my hair out, which I loved anyway, but you know, I was doing voice training as well. And to be fair, like, this is a trained voice. Like, I have been doing voice training, but I was like trying to sound like super duper feminine. Like, I was doing all these things. And yet, whenever I tried to actually flirt with a man, or, you know, because of coronavirus, I didn't have many actual sexual experiences. At least I had like one IRL, but it just felt awful. It just felt humiliating, dehumanizing, and off and wrong. And there was something that just didn't fit. And at this point, to be fair, I was identifying as bisexual. I had been identifying as bisexual for several years, but that's just a thing to remind me to rest my eyes. But I can do that while watching the thing. I'm going to turn this off. I'd been identifying as bisexual for several years, but it was kind of like, oh yeah, I'm just like 85% attracted to men, 15% attracted to women, and I'm never going to think about my attraction to women. Never, never, never. Yeah? Until I watched a little video by ContraPoints called Shame, and I literally had to pause the video several times and go, oh God, oh God, oh God, I'm a lesbian. Because this video is specifically about Natalie Wynn being a transgender woman and coming to grips with the fact that she's actually a lesbian and she's been repressing it out of shame. And she spoke very specifically about, yeah, I really bought into this fantasy of being dominated by a man and like I need to like suck lots of dick and stuff. And then I realized actually I just want to be with a woman. And then of course I read the infamous Am I a Lesbian Master Doc, and it clicked. Not everything, of course, but a lot of it clicked. I'll just run down a quick list of things that I realized. For years, I had been saying, I wish I was a lesbian. I looked at my other friends who were like transgender lesbians, and I was like, oh, I'm so jealous. I wish I could be a lesbian. It would be so much easier if I could be with a woman. All women are actually way more attractive than men anyway, right? Like, everyone knows that. I wanted to be with a woman romantically, even if not sexually. And of course, now that I process these feelings, I'm aware that I do want to be with a woman sexually as well. But that was the only way I could imagine it then. I loved men in theory. And then when I was actually with a man, I was like, this sucks. This blows. I hate this. You know, I very much played into that thing of, oh, I love being seen as attractive by men. I love it when men value me, but I didn't want to actually do stuff with them. So to this day, I'm still not 100% sure if I was just like super, super repressed before because of compulsory heterosexuality and I like repressed all of my feelings for women, or I was gay before and gay now and I just switched gays and I just have a very homosexual energy. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it's the former, because looking back, I can definitely notice like many times in my past where I'm like, yeah, I was pretty attracted to that woman. I think the most damning thing was often I would see a woman and like if she had like a low cut shirt or something, my brain would be like, oh my God, I want to look at her boobs, but don't look at her boobs. You can't look at her boobs. Like, and I guess I rationalized it as like, well, I'm not attracted to women, but everyone wants to just look at women's tits, right? Because it's what you're not supposed to do. You're not supposed to do it. So everyone wants to do it. You just have this compulsion telling you not to do it. Turns out, maybe I just wanted to look at her boobs because I thought boobs are nice. You know, just... So, anyway, after going on HRT and after really processing this stuff, I realized that like, my attraction to men wasn't healthy and it wasn't real. Like, I would feel like a kind of like dark fear in the pit of my stomach like I would see a picture of a man who I'm supposed to be attracted to and be like genuinely like feel nervous. And I guess I thought that was attraction before, but now I understand like that's not good. And like obviously there's, you know, stuff to do with sexual trauma and there is stuff as well. But it was not not nice. And I would often look at like, I don't know, gay porn or gay men, and I would just feel like, oh, they're being really sexual. I have to be really sexual as well. And it was this like compulsive thing, but it wasn't actually something I guess I really wanted to do. So as I realized I was a lesbian, I realized that all of these things I'd been doing, like learning to do makeup, buying different clothes and stuff, working on my voice, changing my behavior, they were all stuff to appeal to men. And when I told myself, okay, what if you never have to date a man again, you never have to have sex with a man again, and you can just be with women, how would you feel? And one, I was like, I can be whoever I want. I don't have to give a fuck about a man's opinion ever again. And two, I was like, oh, that makes me feel so relieved and so happy and so excited because women are so lovely and amazing to be with. So this idea that like, I just don't have to care about men was genuinely really, really freeing. So this is where the butch side comes in, right? Because of course, having experienced all this, I was starting to think more critically about my gender because like I said, I'd never really identified with like trans women around me, or at least like the typical trans experience. So I was reading more about lesbianism and about butchness, and like it was something that I was, you know, aware of before, but you know, it's not very well represented in society, right? And I had been looking at like Instagram profiles of like tomboy lesbians and androgynous lesbians and butch lesbians, and I was like, this really does it for me. This really does it for me. Like, I'm very attracted to this, but also like, I want to look like this. And this was the confusing thing, because when I was a gay man, I was super, super attracted to the aesthetic of like masculinity, but especially like gay masculinity, like, you know, like mesh snapback, this kind of shit, but also, you know, like bondage harness, like leather jacket, like jock straps, like all of that shit, just like, oh, I just like loved the vibe. But wearing it as a man made me feel really fucking weird, and I just couldn't fit into that whole role within like gay culture. And then when I realized like, oh, I can do this as a woman, blew my fucking mind. I was like, I get it, and now it makes sense. And then, you know, I even had an experience the other day where I wore a jockstrap, which I hadn't worn since I started hormones. And just seeing the jockstrap like juxtaposed with my now much more feminine body, you know, I have boobs and stuff, I was just like feeling so euphoric, like genuinely so euphoric. Like, I bought more men's underwear, and it's the kind of men's underwear that I wouldn't have liked wearing before. But now when I put it on, I'm like, oh, this feels amazing. Like, this makes me feel really euphoric in a way that wearing women's clothes never made me euphoric. So it's confusing. It's confusing, right? Because I know a lot of cisgender butch women like to be perceived as men in certain contexts, or they're not against it, right? And as far as I can tell, there's kind of a divide where there are some butches who really emphatically like having a female body and dressing masculinely, and then there are other butches who want to be physically strong and physically very masculine. That's the other thing, by the way. I've been working out a lot, and I really want to build up a lot of muscle. And I definitely, as with probably most trans feminine butches, fall into the first category, right? Where like, if I hadn't taken hormones, I would still be very unhappy with my body. But at the same time, I'm not going super duper feminine. Like, you know, I'm letting my body hair grow out a bit, and I don't feel like I have to get, you know, FFS, for example, facial feminization surgery. Maybe at some point, I don't know. But, you know, it's not like a super big priority for me. Even bottom surgery, I'm kind of on the fence about, because, look, I have very, very complicated feelings about my genitals. I'm not sure if I'm going to talk about it that much on this channel yet, but that would definitely be a separate video. But the long and the short of it is, I don't have the same feelings that like many, straight trans women do. Oh, I forgot to say, by the way, as well, reading Stone Butch Blues really, really helped. Everyone should read that book generally, but especially if you're questioning about these topics or you're curious, go read Stone Butch Blues by Leslie Feinberg. Because although there's a lot of it that I couldn't identify with, right? Because a lot of it is about historically a very different time of growing up butch, and much of it is about, that transmasculine experience of going on hormones as a butch lesbian at a certain point in history. The stuff about transgender identity and feeling lost and never really feeling like you fit in within the idea of womanhood, like really, really resonated with me. So yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to say in this video. Am I the butchest butch alive? Obviously not. I still haven't tried wearing a suit since being on hormones, and like that's something I really hated before. So I'm curious to see, because I feel like if I can find the right suit and it's tailored right, I'll fucking love it. But we just have to get to that point and see. Being a AMAB transgender butch, it's definitely more of a balancing act because the dysphoria is real. And one thing, probably the main thing I feel dysphoric about is my hairline. And in many ways, I would love to just shave all my hair off. Like, I've been fantasizing about shaving all my hair off, but I have a massive fucking forehead. So I have to use, a side parting and a cap and various tricks to like hide the massivity of my forehead, because that causes me dysphoria. That's the kind of thing where I'm like, I would much rather have a more feminine body. So it's complicated, but I'm not the only one. There are other trans feminine butchers out there. It's just there's not many of us, and there's certainly a very, very few of us making videos like this. So that's why I came here today. I hope you found this video helpful. If anything resonated with you or you have any questions, respectful questions, just leave a comment below and I'll try and give a response. So yeah, thanks for watching and I'll see you soon. Bye.